Hi, I'm Kim Shadowan, and I'm with the Lipscomb University Office of Public Relations and Communications. And today I'm visiting with Dr. Randy Bouldin, who is Vice Provost for Academic Affairs, who's been deep in the trenches over the last 5 months, or probably more at this point, preparing for fall semester and what we know is going to be one-of-a-kind semester. And with classes set to begin Monday, we're going to talk about a few things that we all need to know for fall semester. Some of this is a reminder, maybe there's some new things, but wanted to spend a few moments with Dr. Bouldin, and thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome, Kim. I'm glad to be here. Good to get to talk with you.
So before we really start getting into the conversation about academics and things people need to know, I know that Lipscomb has been just a part of your life for a long time, and it means a lot to you. So I would just love to hear a little bit about, just your experience with Lipscomb, and I know you're a graduate, and just what it means to you.
Yeah. I am a Lipscomb graduate from many, many years ago. Finished here with a degree in math. I teach in the math department now as well. So that was my major at the undergraduate level in my graduate work. And after leaving Lipscomb as a college graduate, I went to work for the Department of Energy in Oak Ridge for several years and worked there. And while I was there, I did my master's degree at UT Knoxville. And so then I had always known I wanted to come back to Lipscomb to work, and I got the opportunity to do that. And so I returned to Lipscomb. I actually started working in the registrar's office and teaching math. So I've always had a lot of jobs and still do, and that's the way it started, and it hasn't changed very much since I've been here. But anyway, I worked in the registrar's office for a few years and then moved full-time into the math department and finished my doctorate at Vanderbilt. And so been here 35 years and moved into administration about 14 years ago. Was invited to come over to administration and began trying to grow the graduate area of the university. And so I worked in that for a while. And so during those 14 years, my administrative life has morphed and changed. And so here I am and love being here. It is not only a part of my life, it's probably is my life. My wife is here and she's been here for 46 years. And so this is sort of who we are. And it's a good place to be. So I wear a lot of hats, and a lot of things report through me: the registrar's office, general education, academic success, all the academic curriculum and instruction, new programming, academic policies, the honors college. Lots of things move through my office. Very busy office, very diverse life as far as an employee, but I enjoy it, and it's a very special place to be. And I've seen students returning to campus, and when I watch them on campus, you can't help, if you've been here before, sort of think about yourself when you first arrived on campus. And so when I see the freshmen coming back, I think about myself as I arrived on this campus. A very different campus 45 years or more ago than it is now. But anyway, it's been a great place to spend my life, and I hope I continue to get to be here for a while.
Well, and I think having those deep roots with Lipscomb, nobody ever plans to be, we do have pandemic plans in place, but we find ourselves in a really unusual situation. And I think it's just great when you have such deep roots and experience to help navigate, something that's a little bit unusual.
Yeah, it's very unusual.
Very unusual. Well, and, we've made it to this point where Monday classes begin. And you all have been working, since the spring, and we'll talk a little bit about what all happened in the spring to transition us through the end of that semester, but been working so diligently to get us to this point. And there are a few different steps that I wanted to just take us through, but tell us a little bit about just what all you all have been through this summer. I know you've had a team that's reviewed all the learning spaces on campus, and talk about that, and then Lipscomb Flex and all of that, but what's this summer been like for academics in the provost office?
Yeah. So we're a residential university. And so when this first happened, I refer to it as when the sky fell in March. Our first need was to get through spring semester. And so we those were things, and we can talk about that later. But then we had to begin wrapping our heads around what is fall going to look like. Summer was a pretty given. We will do remote study during the summer, but then it began, we're residential. We want our students back. We want them here with us. The faculty want their students with them. And then I think the students want to be back. And so we were trying to figure out, what do we need to do in order to manage that return and provide for our students as much of a residential world as we can, living within the constraints of COVID-19. And there are significant constraints. And so we had to begin thinking through that. What does that involve? Well, one of the things it involves significantly is course delivery. So how are we going to deliver coursework in a way that continues to be effective for students, in a way that continues to preserve the relational aspect between our faculty and the students, in a way that's safe? And so we began to look at classrooms. What should the classrooms look like and be like? And then what should the delivery format be like? So the first thing we did was look at classrooms. We have a lot of them. And so we decided that we needed to adjust the capacity of our classrooms to match the CDC guidelines for it to be COVID safe, okay? Safe from COVID. And so that meant removing desks or making unavailable seating where the seats were fixed in the classroom. We had to go in and decide, taking the dimensions of the classroom, how many students can this classroom accommodate and sustain the CDC 6 feet guidelines between people. And so that took some doing. I'm a math teacher, so there's a lot of math involved in that, but it took some doing. And so we spent the summer, one of the things that we've done significantly is reduce the capacity of those classrooms. Well, in conjunction with that, then we had to look at what courses had been located in those classrooms and what are those enrollments, because we had already pre-registered for fall semester. And so we had to look at the enrollments involved in those classrooms and go, all right, are we going to be able to fit the class in the classroom? And in some cases we can, in other cases we could not. So then we began to shuffle around the classrooms, trying to maximize current enrollments with the new COVID capacities of the classroom, so that we could, as much as we could, get classes in classrooms so that all the students could attend, even in the COVID environment, and be safe without having to do anything else. And we accomplished that to a large degree so that there would not have to be any division of students or cohorting them, as we would say, and we can talk about that later. So we would avoid the cohorting of students if they would all fit in the classroom using those CDC guidelines. And we were able to do that to a large
How
degree.
many classes? I mean, we're talking hundreds of classes, right?
Oh, yeah.
Versus
Oh, probably 1,000 classes that we would offer during a given semester. And so, so that was quite a job. That was an ordeal to try to figure that out. And so again, we've been able, in large part, to be able to locate enrollments in classrooms that will accommodate those enrollments without any cohorting.
And what is the cohorting?
Yeah.
What's the idea behind that?
I'll kind of explain that a little bit. So I call them attendance cohorts. So let's pretend like in my math class, I'm in a room whose COVID capacity is 12, all right? And I have 24 students registered for my course. Well, obviously all 24 of those students can't be in a classroom at the same time. And so as the teacher, I would invoke attendance cohorts, meaning that week 1, 12 students would be in front of me in the classroom, and the other 12 would be attending remotely. Then the next week they will flip, and the ones remote the first week will be in the class in front of me, and those that were in front of me the first week will be studying remotely. So the flip-flopping keeps happening during the semester, so that you never have all of your class in the classroom, unfortunately, at the same time, but they are all synchronously involved in what is going on in the class. And so we had to provide for that.
Yeah, which is Lipscomb Flex.
Right.
So
that's right.
And I saw, during the summer, a lot of activity installing the technology in all of the classrooms, I suppose, or the majority. So what's the Lipscomb Flex about?
Yeah. Okay. So you get the classrooms in shape as far as capacity, and then you go, all right, what are we going to do for those situations where all the students can't fit in the classroom at the same time? And so we have installed in many of our classrooms that are the most heavily used ones. And then we have also purchased portable versions of this that faculty will carry with them to class if they need to. We've installed technology that will enable a class to occur face to face in the classroom, but the students remotely will Zoom into that class and be there synchronously while the teacher is teaching. So everybody's in class. It's just that being in class this fall means something different than it has before to us. So being in class could mean I'm sitting right there in front of the teacher in a seat in the classroom, or it could be I'm in my dorm room, or I'm in the library, or I'm somewhere else attending this class remotely. And so therefore, when you have the cohorts, the first week, those students will be in, a group of students will be in class, a group of students will be remotely Zooming into the class through the technology we've installed, and then they flip-flop and begin to go back and forth week by week. That way, everyone has an opportunity to be in the classroom physically, and everyone has an opportunity to become accustomed to using the technology by Zooming in to the class in real time with the teacher.
And I think that also is a great opportunity for students who might find themselves needing to quarantine or have gotten ill for various different reasons, but it gives them an opportunity to keep up in class, following through Lipscomb Flex and not get behind.
That's right. So, I mean, let's pretend like we weren't in a COVID world. And without this technology, in years past, a student would get sick or get the flu, and they would email me or whatever and say, hey, I've got the flu. I can't be in class for the next few days. And so they would either just have to rely on notes from a fellow classmate, or they would come by and I would try to catch them up. They still can attend class because of the technology we have now. They won't have to be wondering what's going on. They can still be there in real time because they can invoke the technology and participate that way. So yeah, I mean, this is permanent technology in the classroom. There's the flexibility of being in class in person or attending class remotely. And so we are asking students to honor the cohorts if they have to be done, and to support us in that way.
In every semester, there are students for various reasons that need to request accommodations, and probably even more so now with us wearing masks and everything to protect each other's health and safety. But if somebody were to need to request accommodations, where would they go for that?
The accessibility office on campus is the office that would manage accommodations, and we have always managed accommodations that are a part of the American Disabilities Act. So those accommodations have always been honored and managed through the accessibility office. The email to that is accessability, accessibility at lipscomb.edu. All right. And so that's the address to get in touch with that office. So we've always honored the ADA accommodation needs. The COVID-19 world has opened up and presented a whole other type of accommodation needs. The need to study remotely completely because of health reasons. And we want to protect our students' health, or we want to protect the health of people they may be living with. And so we have provided for this semester a way for them to request to study remotely if they have health issues that make them vulnerable to this virus, or if they're living with people that they don't want to take the virus home to. And so students had been emailed all this information during the summer. So that was part of what we were doing during the summer, was trying to plan to help those students to make certain that they would be safe. And so we have granted permissions for students to study remotely. Their faculty members know they're going to be doing that, so they can take that into account if they're having to cohort. So they know I've got this student who's going to be remote no matter what, and then I can figure out the rest of my attendance cohorts because of that. So we worked this summer to try to serve students in that way. We also understand that some students may have medical reasons that they cannot wear a mask, and we want to respect that. And so we've asked students, we've given them opportunity to request an accommodation for not wearing a mask. They need to provide us medical documentation that gives the reason why that they can't do that. And so we've tried to provide additional accommodations for students as best as we can think about those that are in addition to the ADA accommodations that we typically use.
And I think we have a lot of that information listed on the website, the return to campus plan and COVID, that really details a lot of that. So
the request form to study remotely is listed there, and it's linked, and you can go to the form, complete it, and submit it. It needs to be done pretty quickly if you haven't done it, because classes are starting. But for the most part, I think we have processed all of those, and students have requested that need if they need it. So
another really important aspect of what you all do is the Academic Success Center. And I understand, this semester is going to look a little different, but it's still there to help students, right?
Right, absolutely. To help all students. I mean, the Academic Success Center isn't just for students who are having difficulties academically. The 4.0 student wants to be successful, and so they may need help writing an application for graduate school, or they may need help writing a narrative for an application for a job. And so the Academic Success Center is for all students. We provide a lot of services. The Accommodations office is in that particular area. There are tutoring services that we provide. We provide math tutoring. There's a writing studio to help students either write papers, learn how to do that better, to help them fill out applications, to help them write better. So we have a writing studio. We do tutoring in lots of other areas: biology and chemistry, accounting. Lots of areas on campus participate in the tutoring that goes on in the Academic Success Center. And so it is a place where students can come and get help to be successful. Obviously, the pandemic has changed the way we approach it. And again, in March, when things happened, we had to pivot and change all of that tutoring to remote tutoring. And so our tutors began to Zoom with students and help them via Zoom and tutor them in that way. That's the way we will continue it for fall semester. And so again, for safety reasons, for health reasons, we will continue a remote approach to our tutoring and to the writing studio.
I know another change that has been made, a little adjustment to the academic calendar. So a couple of breaks, I don't think I realized how few breaks we had in the fall until looking at how we've adjusted the calendar. But tell us a little bit about how we're adjusting.
Yeah, so we went through a lot of conversations during the summer about that. What should we do regarding the overall fall calendar? Should we start late? Should we end early? What should we do? So we came to the conclusion that we would begin at our scheduled time, August the 24th, and we would end final exams at our scheduled time, December the 16th. With, right now, an on-ground commencement December the 19th, but that's going to have to be, we'll continue to look at that and make that call as we get deeper into the semester. So we did not change the bookends of our term. We have changed some things in the middle, and a couple of those involve some days off that we would have had. Labor Day classes will meet on Labor Day. We've always gotten that day off, but we will meet classes on Labor Day. We will not have a fall break this year. We will continue going to class. And the reason for that is to try and maintain the presence of our students as a congregation, as opposed to letting them leave campus for a few days and then reconvene. There is a risk of enhancing the virus presence on campus if we do that. Now, we understand students go home on weekends, we get that, but the mass exodus and then the mass reconvening, we're trying to avoid if we can. which is why the next part of the plan is basically happening. So the last alteration in the middle of the schedule is that November the 20th will be the last day for on-ground classes for undergraduate students. So that's a Friday. The next week is our Thanksgiving break. We always get a week off for Thanksgiving. Dorms will be closed that week, so students will all leave and go somewhere else for Thanksgiving. So instead of having them reconvene as a huge group, some students can stay home after Thanksgiving if they want to and continue to finish the semester remotely. Dorms will still be open. Some students can come back to their dorm room after Thanksgiving, and that will be fine. But all classes for undergraduates will be remote following Thanksgiving to finish out the semester. The graduate world will depend. It will depend on the professor, it will depend on perhaps the program, and it will depend on other guidelines from the government, the CDC, etc. But so graduate courses may still be on ground, but all undergraduate courses after Thanksgiving will be remote.
You know, we have to acknowledge all of the hard work, not only that the provost office and the academic leadership team, you know, have gone through in the last few months, but our faculty in the spring having to pivot with about 2 weeks time, and part of that being spring break, that a lot of people may have, you know, may or may not have been able to go out of town or whatever they may have had planned. But they transformed every single course they were teaching to a remote delivery. And I mean, I think that was a Herculean effort on so many of their parts. And I know that, I just know that they've worked hard.
Oh, it was remarkable. It was simply remarkable when at spring break, we said, okay, we're not coming back. You need to be ready. You need to pivot, and you need to be ready to continue your course delivery from home in a way that is effective for students. It was remarkable the work they invested. It was remarkable the creativeness that they came up with, the creative ways to do this. I mean, you're talking about course content that prior to spring break was to be delivered verbally, that was to be delivered in lecture format or in group work or whatever way you were delivering your course. Now, suddenly those options aren't available to you. And you're having to figure out, how am I going to test students? How are final exams going to work? How am I going to continue to deliver my content in a way that I had never delivered it before? They did a remarkable, wonderful job. And it was not an easy task, and it won't be an easy task this fall. I mean, I think a lot of people think, well, you did it in the spring, they're all online. No, number one, we only did it for 5 weeks in the spring. We had already been through 8 or 9 weeks of the semester. But secondly, faculty don't teach the same courses in the fall that they teach in the spring. There are different sets of courses that are offered in those periods. And for a lot of faculty, they have an entirely different slate of courses to prepare for the fall. So, and now it's a full semester of work that they've had to prepare for online. Again, now with the expectation that we may have to pivot again. We don't know. There are a lot of universities already pivoting after a few days being back on campus. They're pivoting and they're changing their lives to the remote world. So we'll be a little bit more prepared for that this time. But it's still, when you still think about, I will be presenting my material in the setting of a classroom, and then you have to change and go, now I've got to present it all virtually. That's still going to be hard. Faculty just did a wonderful job. And unless you walked in those shoes, you have no idea what it took to make that happen, and happen well.
And I think regardless, I mean, with all the planning and all of that work, I know that what's at the heart, you know, of every faculty member, of you and everybody in the provost office, is to deliver a Lipscomb education that is still life transforming, that prepares them for our students for whatever their educational goals are or their career dreams. And I just, you know, it may look a little different, but I know full well that is still our mission.
Oh, it is. I mean, change happens all the time. And it's not that faculty and the institution aren't accustomed to change. We deal with change all the time. We change curriculum. We change the way we do something in a course. I mean, through the years, I have made changes to the way I present particular math material. You do that. Change is a part of your job because you want to do a better job. But those are changes that I control. Those are changes that I'm in charge of. This was a change that was projected upon us. And so how do you manage a change like that and still make the Lipscomb experience transformational for students? And it still is. And the way we do that, the way we must continue to do that, is through the relationships we have with our students. It's through the concern we have for them academically, absolutely. But we also have concerns for them personally and professionally. So this isn't about just their discrete time here. This is about what will their life be like 5 years from now? How can I help them get from this particular experience to a graduate school experience, a professional school experience, a job experience? So the transformation may not happen completely while they're here. The transformation continues because that relationship continues after they're gone. So it's transforming because of the bonds that are developed on campus between our students, between faculty and students. Those bonds continue. That's one of the reasons I'm excited about students being back, because the historic part of this needs to be embraced collectively by them, and it will be, and it will become a part of their memories. It will become a part of who they are. It will become a part of their Lipscomb experience, and that will be transforming to them as well. So yes, Lipscomb is a transformational place. Do other universities transform students? Absolutely. But Lipscomb does it in a very unique way, concerned about the spiritual aspect of their lives. The transformation could be eternal for some students and not just physical in this world. And that's the distinctive difference that we're trying to make with our students. Transformation for life, not just transformation for the time they're here.
So, well, I sure appreciate the time that you have taken to spend with us today and just sharing a little bit about what you all have been planning and what people can expect. And it's here.
It's here, Kim. It's all right. It's here. It's a good thing to walk out on campus and see students back on campus again. It's a good thing. That's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
That's our purpose. And so they're our purpose. And so we want them to move forward. And what's the saying? You pass it on. We want them to have a purpose in their life, and that purpose needs to be other people, not ourselves. And that's what we try to give out. I appreciate the time with you.
Oh, sure. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
All right. You're welcome.